All right, grand rising, grand arrival, grand return, peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I'm Chief Sophia of the Americana Band of Indians, and I just wanted to make a quick video. First of all, happy Tzolkien New Year. Yesterday was the day out of time, and I just wanted to make some observations, some things that I saw. One of those things was I saw a lot. Well, first of all, you have Kanye return to Twitter yesterday or the day before. That was one point. So he's on Twitter now making a bunch of crazy statements. And something else I noticed was that Lil Wayne dropped his date for the Carter 6 is going to come out in June, and also LeAngelo Ball dropped the remix of Tweaker with Lil Wayne. So it was a lot of just kind of unusual music stuff coming out, because of course we haven't had a Lil Wayne album in quite a long time, and so we'll discuss the cultural things where they matter. You also had the Hall of Fame, some NFL event last night where a lot of people were upset because Lamar Jackson did not win Player of the Year, whatever it is. He didn't win. They gave it to somebody else, and people were quite upset at that because they feel like his playing during the season was the best, but then he lost because they lost or something. I don't know. I don't follow football close enough to be able to explain these things too good. I'm just relaying what I can. But one thing I can relay is that everyone thought Eli and Peyton Manning were going to be the first brothers to get Hall of Fame status. And last night they inducted Shannon Sharp's brother, whose name escapes me right now. I can't remember his name, but he played for the Green Bay. He played for Green Bay. They inducted him into the Hall of Fame yesterday, and so Shannon and his brother become the first brothers inducted into the Hall of Fame, and of course they are black, which I think is, it's fitting. It's only right? It's only right. So that was all the day out of time stuff. Plus, I'll have my weekly, whatever update next week. So that was all the day out of time stuff. Now, today is the first day of the cycle. So right around midnight, there was a conjunction between Neptune and the North Node, an exact conjunction, like right around midnight. And that is what the cycle started with. And so I think it's really important to consider how every time a new cycle starts, now this is another or an additional lunar cycle, right? Because we have the lunar timeline, which starts, we have the Lunar New Year, which starts the day after the Pisces full moon. So you have the Pisces full moon, and then the next day starts the Lunar New Year, and that was in September. But this is more of a fixed start, because every year the day out of time is the 6th of February, and the 7th of February starts the cycle. And so I think there's something to the fact that there's fixed starts and then there's floating starts. And I don't know exactly what that means yet, but I just wanted to point it out, because even with the solar new year, you have a fixed start, which is January 1st, but then you have a movable start, which is the day you observe the day after you observe the sun changing stations. And so the moon is the same way, and it's almost exactly the same. It's not the same time period, because it's like 6 months before the moon one, but it's like 6 month cycle for the moon, but for the sun it's right after you have the new year. By the first quarter, you have the the astrological start. So it's really, really interesting, these different cycles, how they work together, what they mean. Like I said, I don't know exactly what all this means yet, but it's really important to consider that some of these things are good, and some of these things are not so good, and they have to just kind of be used in the right way. So since we're already in the midst of our fast, it kind of makes sense that this would be going on. I find that it seems like during the solar parts, we're always fasting. Like because when you have the Pisces full moon, that happens in sometimes August, sometimes September, we're fasting at that time. And then look, here we go with this Tzolkien, we're always going to be fasting during this time because we just started a fast. So I find that to be interesting. And since this goes into the astrological new year, when the astrological new year comes in, we're not fasting. So it's like, you don't really need to fast with the sun because we're fasting with the sun. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's kind of interesting, but I did want to point out that this is the start of the Tzolkien cycle. I don't have any in my notes, so I don't know what day we're on. I have to work on that at some point so that I can get more easily disseminate that information. But I mean, it's okay. For right now, you get the basic understanding. So the other thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to make another longer video about this subject, but this goes back to the need for people to actually read the Bible with new, or with an eye for detail. So I was reading about the bloodline of Abraham yesterday because I had seen a video on TikTok about they were talking about Abraham, and you know my position on Abraham. He was not such a great person personally, because he was always lying to these people, telling them that his sister was his wife in order to protect his own interests, his own life. And that's kind of crazy. You know, that's supposed to be the father of the nation, and this man was worried about, because his wife was so beautiful, he was worried about his own life. I don't know what's admirable about that, right? But anyway, that was before he became Abraham. That was when he was Abram, so maybe it has to do with the name change. But I was like, well, okay, so if we come from, so what bloodline does Abraham come from? Because we know that the 12 tribes come from Abraham's bloodline, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We know that Jesus comes from that bloodline through the tribe of Judah. But I was like, well, whose child was Abraham that he was in that bloodline? Like, which line was he in? And of course, most people know this. I wanted to see it for myself. So we looked up in the Bible. It's in Genesis, Genesis 10, I believe, Abraham's bloodline. And it turns out that he comes from Shem, which makes sense, complete sense, right? So, because Shem comes from Seth, so it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But when we were reading the actual genealogy, something jumped out. And basically, when you read that chapter, Genesis 10, it literally says this person had this son at 105. This person had this son at 80. This person had this son at 162. And so you can see, like, okay, they tell you how old each of these men was when they had, this child which, carried out this bloodline. Well, when they came to Noah, they said, and when Noah was 500, he had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And I was like, wait a minute. He had them all at once? Like, so were they triplets? Oh my gosh, were they triplets? That changed the entire story of the flood and all of that if they were triplets. Why do I say that? Shem was set apart. So if they were triplets, there's a story about some triplets who were born in 2020 or 2021, and 2 are identical twins and 1 looks totally different. And but they're still triplets. They were all born at the same time. They were all carried at the same time, but 2 look like identical twins and 1 looks like totally different, like a fraternal twin. And so there's a precedent for what I'm saying. This happens from time to time. And I feel like when that happened in 2021, I think it was just before the inauguration that they were born, that was a warning to these people that they weren't going to be able to get away with what they were doing. And these are some beautiful melanated babies. And it's like, wow, this is so unbelievable to me, because there's a precedent for this. It's not, and before, if you told me they were triplets, I'd be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But it makes way more sense if you think that Ham and Japheth were identical twins. And maybe Japheth was born first of the identical twins. Then Ham was born and Shem was last. That's how they came. That's the order they came out the womb. Now that makes sense, because remember at the beginning when Eve had babies, all of them were twins. Cain was born and he was a twin. He had a female twin. Abel was born and he had a female twin. But in this case, we're talking about 3 male triplets. And so if that's the case, if it's the case that Shem, Ham, and Japheth are triplets, then it makes sense why Noah would not curse Ham. Because I always wondered in that story, because Ham is the one who took the clothes, why didn't Noah curse Ham? Why wouldn't he? Well, if Ham and Japheth were twins, if he cursed Ham, he'd be cursing Japheth, because they were the same. They were twins. So that's why he cursed Canaan, because Canaan was the son of Ham. That's how you know which bloodline was cursed. And of course, from Ham comes Ashkenaz and all of these ones. So then the story makes sense. Like the way the story is told starts to add up, and you're like, okay, so Shem was set apart. But literally, he was set apart. He did not share a sack with Ham and Japheth. He didn't share the sack. He was in his own set apart sack. And so it also explains why they won't talk about where they came from, because they always talk about Shem, Melchizedek is some, kind of mysterious, whatever. We don't know where he came from, kind of don't know where he went. Well, if he was a triplet, that's kind of, because if you know anything about multiples in babies, especially twins, usually one twin gets more attention and the other twin gets less attention, right? That's usually what happens. And so if that's the case, this is so funny. If that's the case, then that didn't go off yet. Of course, Shem, as the standalone child of the triplets, would not want to be included in what Ham and Japheth got going on, because if you've ever seen twins, especially identical twins, they do all the same thing. They're always copying each other, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not talking about it like it's bad, but I'm just saying they're always copying each other. Whereas fraternal twins usually have their own individual lives, and I've observed both set of twins pretty up close and personal. I've known both kinds, and so that just tells me that this is the reason why these certain groups of people, they share the same behaviors. Like if you look at who I call Japheth, which is the Eurasians, and who I call Ham, which is the other Eurasian. The Europeans are Japheth basically, and the more Asian ones are kind of like Ham, and the Africans they all act the same. Everyone who's not on this continent pretty much acts the same, especially in America. America has the only people that act different in the whole world. No one in the whole world acts like Americans but Americans. You're not going to go somewhere else and see other people acting like Americans. You just don't. They act pretty much all the same. And that's why when you have these invaders coming into this land, they're bringing their idol worship with them, which is totally abhorrent to this land, because Shem was set apart. He never got into all this idol worshiping and these 7 deadly sins that the twin brothers got into, because they was all in the mix of it, marrying these women, after the bloodline of Cain and all of this crazy stuff. Shem, he wasn't involved in all of that. He just wasn't involved in all of that. And so the story, now they didn't put this in the book of remembrance, so I'm wondering if they just left that part out and thought nobody would ever figure it out. So we'll see if they have to do a correction to their book of remembrance to highlight this point, because clearly they were triplets. You can't read that line any other way, especially when the other lines delineate out the others separately, and this one doesn't. Like, you can't read that story any other way. And so I just wanted to, as we start our new cycle, which again is in sync with the lunar moons, and I'll probably pull a chart for this, and some of the stuff is just going to come out later. I'm going to pull the charts, I'll do the readings, and I'll post them, so to be able to refer back to them. They're not going to be in real time with the energy. It is what it is. I just can't get to it right now. But I did want to just talk about this, because indeed, this does change a lot, and then you can understand why Japheth and Ham are basically like the same. Why are these Europeans like these Africans? Like, why are they all the same? Why is it so abhorrent to put all blacks in one category? It's like, first of all, all of these people was black, and it could be, whenever I see fraternal twins, and even in the case of these twins, 2 of the twins were lighter skinned and 1 of the twins was darker skinned. And then that kind of makes sense too. Then you have to kind of wonder where these Hamites, the dark ones, came from and who they are. They might be the sons of Cain. I don't know. I'm not, I've already said that basically, but it's looking more and more true. So it's almost like the lighter skin, the Europeans and the Asians are like Japheth and Ham, and the Americans, the black Americans here that were here, are Shem, and we're a darker shade than them. And these, all these other mixed whatever people, maybe they're just seeds of Cain. Because Cain was out there mixing with all these different women, mixing with these, become these Nephilims and creating all this stuff. That's what Cain was out here doing. We can't pretend like Cain's seed doesn't exist. After the flood, they should have ceased to exist. But we know that some of them rode in the mouth of the fish, just like Jonah. We talked about that a few years ago, because the fish, the big fish, was the Leviathan, and Jonah was swallowed by the Leviathan, and then he was spat back out to go teach the message. And so if the Leviathan did that for Jonah, of course he would preserve some of these wicked Cain's children to be able to progenerate this wickedness after the flood, because the Leviathan was not affected by the flood. So we kind of got that part of the story already wrapped up. So that's basically what I think was happening. And especially if they were triplets, it just changes the whole story, because then we're not talking about Cain's seed at all. It's a lot going on that just, it hasn't been all the way explained yet, but of course we're going to keep rationalizing it out and thinking about it. But you have to read these Bible stories and remember that it's a bibliography. It is giving, it is pointing in the direction of certain information. And again, shout out to our brother King James, because he preserved it. It's something else that we were researching, but he preserved it in such a way that we can find it. And I know a lot of the Hebrew Israelites hate on King James, but he was one of our people, and he really preserved the esoteric nature of the Bible for it to be interpreted at such a time as this. And just because they didn't understand the interpretation of the Bible, because they don't have the Holy Spirit. I mean, you know a tree by its fruits. If you can't read that scripture, Genesis 10, and it's in the Torah, so people can't say, well, this and that. No. If you can't read that and see, wait a minute, Noah had 3 children at 500 years old. He didn't have 3 wives. So where did these 3 children come from? It was just kind of left in there, and it was subtle enough to be undetectable by those people who wanted to erase our history. So now we have an understanding. This is why I don't have a problem, again, as I've been saying, whoever they say is Edom, Esau, whatever, it's not them. It's not no people who don't look like us. That's Esau. It's people who would look like us, but a little bit of the seed of Cain that are Esau, you know. And so this whole thing of calling white people Esau and Edom is not right. I'm fairly certain that they're Japheth. And then looking at the genealogy, it could really be like the Europeans, like what are those dark Europeans? Like there's some darker Europeans, right? It could definitely be Europeans and Asians. And Asian as in Indo-Asia, in Proto-Indo-Asia, whatever they call it. But like the whole India, because some of the names of some of the names are names that you find in the Hindu text. And I was like, wait a minute, I've seen these names before because I've seen them in the Hindu text. So then you can kind of figure out, like, you can confirm my theories by taking those names and looking and seeing if you see them in the Hindu text. Because, I mean, this research can be done. I'm going to do it when I get ready. I'm not going to stress myself out doing all this research, because it seems like people are committed to, just blaming the white man for everything, when I have been saying ever since I started this channel, my oppressor my ops always been black. My ops always been related by blood, actually, most of them. I've not had ops that, came out of nowhere and didn't look like me. No. My ops always look like me. Always look like my people. So, all of that, your ops are these other people. Yeah, if your ops are these other people, that means I'm your op too. Because the ops of Edom and Esau is, what was it? Was Jacob? Yeah. Yeah, Jacob will be the ops of Esau. Seth is the ops of Cain. So if you're from the bloodline of Cain, then yeah, Seth would be your ops. If you're from the bloodline of Esau, then yeah, Jacob would be your ops, which is kind of crazy. It's like they wanted us to claim all of the quote-unquote birthright of Esau, which he sold, so that they could claim the birthright of Jacob, which is kind of like, what's wrong with y'all? Why would I willingly give up my birthright? And that's what it is. They want us to give up this land, give up our birthright, sign it over, say, no. Those people are my enemies. That makes you from the bloodline of Esau and not from the bloodline of Jacob. And if you're not from the bloodline of Jacob, you can't be one of the 12 tribes. So that's how you know they were lying about being in these 12 tribes. They just totally, completely lied about that. 100%. like the story is starting to get clearer on how they have been pretending, or as I call it, LARPing in our energy. Because the more we denounce who we were, who we are, just based on our demeanor, because remember, God always says that he will, what do you call it? Graft in those people who believe in him. So, but it also means that he'll cut off those people who don't believe in him. And so by rejecting our God, our one God, the creator of all things, and accepting their weird multiple gods, where one God created this, another God created that, and they were totally separate from each other, by understanding the Shema, our God is one, many parts but one God, and understanding what that looks like for us individually, then because we are individuals, so this is not going to look the same for everybody. But by getting us to reject who we are, by selling us this vengeful God who is not our God. Our God is not a God of vengeance. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. But that doesn't mean he's going to take it, because that's not how that works. In another passage I read, it said that God asked the angel who would go and lie to to Pharaoh, and one of the angels volunteered to go and be a thorn in Pharaoh's side, so that he would harden his heart. So it wasn't God, the creator himself, that went to do that. It was a part of him, one of his angels, one of his agents, his authorized representative, that went and did this thing on behest of God. And so if you believe that the God is a God of vengeance, then you don't understand that all of this is so that we would, like I always say, repent, turn back to the creator, and put up our idols. We have to put up our idols. There's no getting around it. And most people are so committed to their idols, they don't understand how much they're impacting them. And I see it over and over and over again. I see it so much so that I don't even comment on a lot of stuff anymore. When I'm talking to people, I just, there's nothing that I can do. If I've been sent to help people turn away from their idols and get themselves together, and they insist on, doing all this horrible stuff and not potentially considering that whatever entities they're working with are actually not good for them, then there's nothing I can do for you. I question again, we do this every year. What do we do in September? As a part of, verifying that the angels assigned to us have done their jobs. We, in September, make a new contract for the year, a new fiscal contract, and we go back over our year. We review our year individually, and also do it on the channel with just documenting the videos. But we review our year and we see, did these angels do what we asked over this year? And if they didn't, we say, your contract is over. You don't get more than a year to carry out what you're supposed to do. So we ask the creator to conduct judgment, because you're not going to work with me for a year, 5 years, 10 years, and 2, 3, 10, 20, 50 years and never accomplish what I want. I am the person with the body. I am the ether. And so no, you have to actually help me get what I want, because my will and the creator's will are one. As my own creator in my own right, what I want is what the creator wants. And if you don't help me get there, then or actively work against me, why are you allowed in my energy? You don't have a body without me. And so a lot of these people are working with these entities. They're just assuming that they're good, and they're never doing the self-reflection to say, hey, this entity is really not helping me become a better person, grow closer to the creator by, this and that. And so it takes you have to readjust, and you have to know yourself, and you know your chart and all that stuff. But, a lot of people, they're just, because they getting some results, they're committed to these entities, demons, a lot of them, even though they're not getting good results. But because they're getting some results, they're willing to stay committed to these demons. It's crazy. I'm not okay with just some results. I want the results that I asked for, because the Creator has tasked me something to do that you may or may not know, and I have to actually carry those things out. And I, as the human, know what I need to carry those things out. Not saying that the angels don't. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's ridiculous to think, oh, I got to put my hands in the life of an entity that was sent here to help me, and I can't have my own say in how things go. No, that's not right either. It's not how it works. We're working together. God sent us here to judge the angels. Didn't Jesus say that? Jesus said we were going to judge the angels. And so if we're going to judge the angels, what are we judging them on? We're judging them on how well they help us achieve our goals. And if they're not helping us achieve our goals, then they need to be removed. They need to be re-educated or sent back to the Creator for transmutation so that they can get it right. Our timelines are not the same. Our time is not the same. They may think they have more. That's why it's better to just get the stuff done with us and get it over with than to drag it out to the last possible moment, or to allow these other negative entities convince them that, whatever we're trying to do is against the best interest of the Creator. No, I am a voice of the Creator, just like they are. And by helping my voice become stronger, their voice becomes stronger. Because nobody was talking about helping out the angels or anything like that until I started talking about it. Actually, because I was like, dang, y'all just use these angels and never say nothing? Y'all don't even say thank you? Like, golly. You got these entities working for you and you don't even have the good sense to be like, dang, he helped me out, she helped me out, that was really helpful, whatever. Like, that's kind of nuts to me. And I know some people will think, it's okay, but I don't think it's okay to use any entity without understanding the great power and the great oh my goodness, I knew it was going to happen. The great responsibility you have to actually judge that entity for what they do. This is why I don't really like doing I don't get into a bunch of magic and stuff like that, because I'm going to be held responsible for how that thing plays out. And if something were to happen or whatever, that thing is going to be on me. So I try not to get involved in all of that stuff. And I know some people do think it's okay. I just have to turn. I know some people think it's okay. That's fine for you, but I don't want to be responsible for somebody, doing something they're not supposed to do, having influenced me in a way that's not good. And next thing I know, I'm left with the task of trying to sort out some problems that aren't even my problems. That's what the government has been doing to us for years. Like, I'm not going to allow that to continue on. That doesn't make any sense to me. And something else that I'll say in that same vein is that I'm going to talk about this in my weekly report, and I have been talking about this, but that whole USAID thing, I have a feeling a lot of your favorite Hebrew Israelite content creators have been getting money through USAID. And just keep an eye out on that for ones that disappear, they start begging for money, whatever the case may be, because honestly, I think that there's a lot of controlled opposition within the Hebrew Israelite camps. And now that the USAID funding has been cut off, because it's been cut off for 90 days, so that they can reevaluate and reassess. But now that I see that this money has been cut off, don't be surprised if a few of your favorite content creators are now asking for money. They now have products for sale. They now have books for sale because they're not getting that money from the government anymore. And that's exactly what I've been talking about this whole time. A lot of these people have been getting money from the government and then pretending like they weren't getting money from the government. And they weren't telling you how they were getting it, but they weren't actually passing along any of that, what they were getting, to any of the people following them. Just like these churches. A lot of churches are in trouble too. They were getting USAID money, which is, I think, egregious. But I think what's more egregious is if you got some brother on the internet talking about, destruction and hating Esau and all of this stuff, but they was getting money from the government the whole time, and like letting their members of their community suffer in silence over not having food and stuff like that. Those people need to be dealt with. I mean, this is a day of reckoning within the community. Now, I don't follow any of these camps or anything like that, so I have to just say it here and hope that it gets, people are talking about it or whatever. But yeah, if you start seeing these people begging for money, they looking bad, they got products for sale, whatever it is, they saying let's go out and protest. When nobody was protesting Western North Carolina, when Western North Carolina looked like a war zone, nobody was protesting FEMA for that at all. Everybody was sitting on your porch. But now if people are telling you, yeah, we have to go out and protest because USAID was doing this and that, and somehow USAID was preparing a way for Black people to be able to return to Africa, or whatever they come out and say, because I don't know. These people were getting paid by USAID, getting all this money in contracts and not telling you. And that has to be addressed. That is ideally what we're fasting for anyway, for the removal of these people. And so far, in the first 4 or 5 days of the fast, the Creator has shown up and shown out by highlighting how much money these people were getting for the destruction of our community. I haven't gotten into the numbers yet of what they were doing specifically in the Black community, but you can rest assured they were getting money to destroy us. These churches, these camps, these groups, just keep an eye out. Who starts begging for money, who's looking bad, whose ministry just goes away. Just keep an eye out. That's why I made a video. I'm like, nah, I'm still here. I wasn't getting USAID money. And when I figure out, again, like I've said, when I get a handle on how to get money from the government in the way that is actually our restitutions, not no reparations, I will be the first one on the internet talking about it. I mean, we've already got many ways of doing it, but when it results in actual cash in the pockets and stuff like that, I'm not going to keep that a secret. We already have a group. It's called the Family Banking Group. We have No Money, Grow Money. You can join the Telegram. You best believe when I get the information, I'm going to put it on Telegram. I haven't really been doing too much because I'm this is a time of fasting, and I'm waiting for the Creator to show up with some things that I've been asking for, or how to actually get these things so that I can help the community. My whole thing has been about helping the community from the very beginning. I started doing daily readings because the prayers during the fast were helpful, but it wasn't telling you the energy of the day. How can you get over the energy of the day if you don't know what the energy of the day is? You don't know how to read the stars. You don't know how to process what that means. And people who are so-called astrologers have no idea what's going on. They're reading the energy completely wrong. And even people who aren't astrologers, people, just regular people. I told, somebody that what I've been saying for 2 years, almost 3 years now, you are going to have to spend money with professionals who know what they're talking about to get a read on the energy. There's no getting around it. The veil has been so thick. There's been so much chaos and nonsense with Neptune being in Pisces. Neptune, which is Neptune being in the Neptune house. There's been nothing but chaos for the whole time Neptune has been in Pisces. It's getting ready to get in Aries between this year and next year. It'll be permanent next year. And once it gets into Aries, you've got to undo all of the Pisces lies. You can't do that by yourself. You have to have someone help you. And I had someone tell me, no, I don't need anybody to do no readings or nothing else on me. I can do it for myself. Okay, boss. Have at it, because I have found great joy in spending my money with spiritual professionals. I've received 100-fold what I've invested with various spiritual professionals. And I know that coming into 2025 and 2026, 2027, it's going to be the price is going to have to go up, because these hard-headed people who think that they know everything, when Neptune moves into Aries, you're going to realize everything that you ever knew was a lie. Some of us are doing that now. Oh, everything we ever knew was a lie. Okay, but like, everything I ever knew about myself was not true. So I was able to deal with that. But if people who are just now finding out through the USAID scandal that the government has been conducting war against its people, its civilians, not just here, but all over the world, and causing the mass murders of hundreds of millions of people worldwide, and you're having a hard time processing that. Imagine finding out that you yourself have been working against yourself for the entirety of Neptune and Pisces, which is a long time. What is it? 30 years, 40 years? 40 years of lying to yourself for Neptune and Pisces? Yikes. I don't know how long Neptune is in each sign. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, how are you going to process that? It was always you who was sabotaging yourself. You can do that without a professional, but it's okay. Tell people to go to therapy. But when you say, hey, pay this light worker over here to do a light language activation for you so that you can, connect with these higher beings that are actually assigned to you, that's a bridge too far. Like, this is the kind of people we're dealing with. Or people, I don't need no light language activation. Why would I need a light language activation? I'm doing just fine. It's like, you think you're doing fine? Okay, you seem like you got demons on you to me, but I mean, who am I to say that? Who am I to call that spade a spade? I'll just mind my business, And so that's the kind of energy that we're up against. That's the kind of things that we're dealing with. And again, it's not all bad. It's not all bad, but it's just during this, every time I fast, I find out that they are still sending these demons to try to figure out what I'm doing. I'm fasting. Okay, how about that? So you can send whoever you want to try to figure out what I'm doing. It's not going to do anything because I'm fasting. So I've got an extra layer of protection because I'm very diligently seeking the face of the Creator so that I can make the right decisions. So I'm not going to make a decision that's wrong. I'm not going to say the wrong thing. I'm also not going to be provoked. And that provoking part is annoying, but it's not going to change the fact that I'm fasting. It doesn't change anything about that. So that's how I feel about it. This video has been way longer than I expected. I just wanted to make sure I put all this into the ley line in case I forget it or whatever. So peace and blessings, shalom, and we'll see you in the next video.